started. All right, here we go. You're recording. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the April edition of the Texas Teams Community Meeting. As I said, we have a lot that we're going to cover today. I'm Michael Kennedy, and I'm the Modern Work Customer Success Manager for the state of Texas agencies, as well as the city of Austin. I have other peers who cover other parts of Texas. And I want to say, as always, a big thank you to Joy Hall Bryant for her support and always being a good partner to us on this community, and also always reminding me to start the recording. So thank you, Joy. Let me see if my pen's going to work today. Come on, pen. Trying to use my pen to advance the slides. There we go. All right. As y'all remember, we got a theme for this year.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Well, we're going, we don't need roads.
All right. Are y'all able to hear the audio fine coming through the videos?
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
Good.
Okay, awesome. So we have this thing called the community interest list. So this is a place for people who are interested in joining the community to sign up. There is an option to leave the community. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but if we're a bit too much for you, just ask to leave, and I will endeavor to remove you from the mass list. I still need to get with Billy and have him show me how to do the automation where you automatically get invited and all that. Billy, we've got to work on that like next week. So I still do it old school. And I don't have a CRM or anything like that. It's a spreadsheet. All you'll have to do if you want to put your name down is take your phone out and scan that QR code, and it'll take you to a Microsoft form, which is part of Office 365. You can fill that out, put yourself as an add or a remove, and then click submit. And as we mentioned, the theme for this year is roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And so to really to follow through with that, I think we're going to start calling this Teams Takes Flight and start really digging into more advanced ways to leverage Teams and more things that you can do with Teams than just the traditional out-of-the-box functionality. And so we're going to talk about three things today. We're going to talk about before, during, and after, ways that you can leverage Teams before meetings, during meetings, and after meetings to have more successful meetings and more successful collaboration. We're going to talk about corporate communications and a brand new initiative we have called the Teams Broadcast Hub, and that we're going to invite any and all of your agencies to participate in. We're going to talk a little bit about, and I meant to change the title on this one to Teams Takes Flight Onboarding. So we're going to actually review an onboarding scenario for remote workers, which I think even as we stretch into beyond a year now with this pandemic, even as we move forward, many of my agencies have said that they are not going to have all their employees come back to the physical workplace. And so as we look at hybrid work scenarios and onboarding employees who don't come to the office, this is a scenario that we can cover leveraging Teams. And then everybody's favorite time, it's Billy time at 4 o'clock. And Billy, keep me honest on time here. I've got my phone here, so I'll tap that every once in a while and make sure that I'm not too far off schedule. Okay, a couple of things I want to make you aware of. One of the challenges that we have in public sector, many of us are in a GCC, Government Community Cloud, Office 365 tenant. And we are not at feature parity with our commercial tenant brothers and sisters. And so my coworkers, the Michael Kennedys of all the other states and all the other counties and all the other cities, put together 11 sessions with deep dives on each aspect of Teams meetings and only using features that are available in GCC. And so you can go to this aka.ms/Teams meetings, MTGS for government, or you can go to my YouTube playlist, and I've put links to the videos on my playlist. Those are down at the bottom. And so if I will go ahead and copy these into the chat once I'm done with my section and Billy's going. But if you make a note of these are shortened URLs, There are really, really great sections. Each they range in time from about 15 minutes to about 40 minutes, and they're very, very good. I'm very blessed to work with a great group of peers who are very good at what they do, and they will, I think, will be able to provide some great information to you. All right, let's see if my pen's. So this is a little preview.
Ooh, that was some epic scoring right there. Oh my gosh, that's Oscar worthy.
I know one of my coworkers did that, and he just did such a great job. He said, again, like I said, I get to work with some really cool people. So another awesome resource that you may or may not have seen is the Teams blog and what's new. So now this is not GCC specific. So you're going to go out there, you're going to see something cool, and then you're going to be disappointed. So I'm telling you right now that it's not GCC specific. But this section right here, whoops, let me go back, get my pen to work here. There we go. What's new in Microsoft Teams February and March? We are getting much better at Microsoft at simultaneous releasing or features that come out in commercial sector not taking quite so long to get to GCC. And so there are some really great features discussed in some level of detail. And so I would recommend going out there and looking at what's coming and then be thinking about how your agency might be able to leverage that. Okay. I have about a 25 slide deck that's associated with this talk. But I'm going to shorten it to just a few of the key slides so we can get through some other content today. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to include all of those slides in the PDF that I send out afterward. And so there's just some really great content here. And what we're talking about is the idea of leveraging the capabilities of Teams before you go into the meeting to get ready for the meeting, inviting people, setting up the team space, doing introductions in the meeting chat, holding discussions, pre-meeting discussions in the meeting chat that's associated with the meeting, and then also uploading content into the files area for the meeting. You may or may not know that when you create a meeting, if you go to your Teams calendar, you can go in and you can get access to all these pre-meeting spaces. You can also create pre-meeting polls. You can add OneNotes pre-meeting. And so there's all of this stuff that you can do before the meeting that you used to do, or you may still be doing via email. You might be sending out emails with attachments about the meeting, agenda updates about the meeting. You might be updating the meeting request, body of the meeting. And so I would encourage you to stop doing that and instead put the content in the meeting space itself. Now, during the meeting, I think a lot of us know about some of the capabilities during the meeting. The birds are chirping in, they like it. Can y'all hear the birds?
Yep. Yeah, we can.
Okay, I wasn't sure if the noise suppression would block the birds, but no, apparently not.
Did you hear birds? Because I can't hear birds, and I was real confused. I was like, is he losing it right here on the call? Because if it is, I'm glad it's recorded.
I got my vaccination yesterday, the Moderna, the first shot, and my arm, it is sore, and I could be crazy, and I could be hearing the birds just inside my head. Right?
That's a lesser known side effect.
Yes, exactly. I was really hoping when I woke up this morning that I was not going to wake up with a fever or achy or be completely out of my mind. So maybe just halfway. So during the meeting, I think we're familiar with a lot of those capabilities. It's really that before meeting and then the after meeting. And one of my peers over in France put this visual together, and I just think it's really gorgeous illustration of all of these capabilities and reminders of the things that we can do as we prepare for the meeting. And he did a really nice job of sort of sectioning this off. Here's the pre-meeting. Here is the setup of the meeting itself, during the delivery of the meeting, and then the follow-up of the meeting. And so you can do this. This was originally designed around training and around setting up a course that would be held online via teams. And so you'll hear this learning path. You might remember Aaron Passons with HHS, who came on and talked about the way they use learning pathways, and they pinned it inside of teams. So that's in fact, I saw Aaron join earlier. So welcome, Aaron. And so this is a example where you could use the learning pathways. You could sign people up for a course, maybe an on-demand course or an online course, and then you can take them through this whole area. Now, Whiteboard, I see Whiteboard here. Some of you may be, like cursing right now to the side or spitting on the floor, saying Whiteboard. We don't get Whiteboard in GCC. We do have some great options for alternatives to Whiteboard, like using OneNote, and I'm using my handy dandy Microsoft Pen. So to draw on the screen. So if you just have a pen and a touch screen and you use OneNote, then you can use that as a whiteboard, and multiple people can be using it at the same time because Whiteboard can be put into the meeting area. So then it's meeting notebook, polls, and QA. There's so much of this capability that is now in GCC that was not there before. And then Star Donovan and I with Texas Parks and Wildlife were talking earlier today about the meeting transcription versus live captions. And so there is a lot of capabilities now for with accessibility in mind. Now we're just shy of getting that capability of being able to do an add-in for an event where you have the ASL, and so you have someone doing American Sign Language pinned inside the meeting. It can very easily be achieved using OBS Studio, which is a free open source video muxing and audio muxing platform. I have many peers who use it today, and it's not super hard. It just takes a little doing. And so, but these will be native capabilities coming to Teams in the next couple of months. So when we think about these digital meetings, as I mentioned earlier, so creating that meeting notebook, we've been doing some strategic planning as we get toward the end of our fiscal year, which ends at the end of June. And so I've been putting together different strategies for both end of year as well as things we want to do next year. And so what I do is I'll create a meeting where I'm going to be talking to my peers around a particular agency. But what I'll do is, there we go. What I'll do is I'll create a notebook in a team, and then I'll create channels for the different customers, but then I'll use that same notebook in the meetings for those different channels. And so what I'll do is I'll refer back to it. So that way I may have 10, 15 meetings, but all of the notes are going into that same notebook that's associated with that team. And then that way it can be shared across all of the different meetings and the different customers that we're working with. Or for you, it might be different projects that you're working on, different initiatives, different trainings. And so, but a lot of capabilities there. And I introduced my wife to Microsoft To Do, which comes with Office 365. And there's a To Do for desktop, a To Do for your phone. There's a cloud-based To Do. And she is so good. And she's a CEO. And runs a company, and so she's really good at managing a lot of moving parts at the same time. I'm not as good at doing that, and so she was teaching me how to use it actually last night over dinner. And so would recommend To Do. Integrates your email flagged, your tasks that you establish through Outlook, as well as items that you add via the To Do application itself. And it's really cool to have it all integrated into one place. Now, registration, if you are needing to do registration right here, there is an application called Bookings, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that a little bit later in the session. We also have surveys and quizzes. So forms, Microsoft Forms can be used as a form to fill out, but you can also, one of the capabilities is instead of creating a form is to create a quiz. So you can create a quiz about something. So if you did a training and you wanted to do a knowledge comprehension or a knowledge retention quiz at the end of the training, then you could do it with a quiz. And then, of course, there's all of the video channel and replay capabilities that you can do by recording the meeting and then publishing the recording of that meeting. And most of you don't have Yammer. Just a couple of customers with either commercial tenants or that have paid for Yammer. Yammer is like a social media for the enterprise. And so then you can create community after a meeting, or if there's a particular training or initiative, then you can create a community around that afterward by leveraging Yammer. And so I'm going to send this out to y'all. But one of the things to make sure and remember as you go through and you look at all the rest of the slides, because there's more content here, is think about your peers who may have some disability. So I wear hearing aids. I'm pretty hard of hearing. These help a whole lot, but I use the captioning on a regular basis. Fortunately, my hearing is not to the point where I can't hear in meetings, but I cannot hear in loud spaces. And so it really helps me to have the transcription that comes after meetings, as well as the subtitles that can be included. There are also capabilities built into Word and PowerPoint to allow you to do an accessibility checker on your documents before you send them out, to make sure that you have the alt text for the images, and that if you're using a reader, like a screen reader, to make sure that the different elements that you have on a slide are actually, it goes in order and reads them in order. So I would definitely encourage you to use some of those capabilities. Also, for people with visual impairments and visual disabilities, having background blur on, which I don't right now, I recognize, helps to decrease the background distractions. And then the do not disturb mode, just so you can make sure that your people are not disturbing you during a meeting. High contrast mode, somebody keeps advancing the slides. I'm not sure if somebody's playing with me or not. Maybe that's just me or something with my PC. High contrast mode is something that you can do for people with visual impairments, and it just sets your screen so that there's a lot more contrast. And then the automatic translation can translate web pages, documents, PowerPoints into your language of choice. And so if you have a language other than English, which is your preferred language, then you're able to do that automatically. We're also able to do that with the captioning. And then lastly, from a collaboration standpoint, if you do have challenges with reading, built right into Teams, as well as Word and PowerPoint, and I don't know about Excel, is the Immersive Reader. And so you can set it so it will read the document to you, or it can, depending on the different types of visual impairments that you have, maybe you have dysgraphia or dyslexia, or other visual conditions, it will actually reformat the paragraphs and the words so that they are situated in a way that really helps those with very specific visual conditions. I mentioned earlier about the accessibility checker, so definitely check that out. And then the voice dictate can allow you to, I broke my hand a long time ago, and I used the voice dictate to dictate my documents, my emails, and it's built right into Outlook, it's built into Word, and it's just right at the top. It's a little microphone. It'll work better if you use a good headset as opposed to just using like a speakerphone. Okay, let me take a quick breather. Let me discard my annotations and jump out. Have there been any questions coming along? I don't know if we have anybody in the meeting that's reading these and calling them out.
Yeah, I can do that for you, Michael. No problem at all, sir. So the first thing is there's a couple questions about bookings, and the main one being, do we have access to bookings now?
Yes. In a GCC tenant, you should have access to bookings. It may or may not be turned on in your tenant. So if it's turned off, then you just need to talk to your IT administrators about turning it on and present them with a business case. And Billy's going to go through some business cases that I think will get you excited about bookings. So if you want to learn more about bookings, just hold your hat. It is coming. All right. Okay.
What does GCC stand for?
Oh, GCC is Government Community Cloud, and the Government Community Cloud is the Office 365 cloud that a lot of our government customers, where their Office 365 tenant is hosted. That's what GCC is. So there's Government Community Cloud, there's Commercial Cloud, there is the DoD cloud that's specific for the Department of Defense. And so there are different clouds, and depending on the level of certifications that are necessary, they're not necessarily any more secure than the other clouds, but the certifications that we have to go through for GCC sometimes take a while, and it is literally a paperwork and an approval process that slows down a lot of the features from coming to GCC. Sometimes it is held back because of something that it doesn't exist in the government community cloud tenant, like some back-end service. But a lot of times it's really just getting it certified. Same thing occurs for GCC high tenants and the DoD tenant. Okay, so I'm getting Roxy saying a lot of background noise. So I can switch to my headset. Is everybody hearing background noise?
Just a little wind picked up recently.
All right, let me do this.
Just the wind.
I'm gonna
Really great example of how to use Microsoft noise suppression because it was instant. Took out all that background noise.
All right. So I switched over to this Plantronics UC headset that does have background noise blocking. Is that any better?
It's far better.
Okay,
Yeah,
excellent. I've been using this headset for not this particular one. I actually just got this this week, but I've been using this brand Plantronics Voyager series for about 15 years since it first came out. This one for remote work and working from places where maybe you're driving or you're even on the side of the road pumping gas and there's a freeway right next to you. This provides the best noise suppression of any headset that I've ever seen. There is two kinds of noise canceling. There is what's called ANC, active noise canceling, and you'll see that on some of your Teams devices. What that means is that it's going to help you hear better by canceling out the background noise. But what it doesn't do is block the background noise from going to the microphone. So you will be able to hear better, but everybody on the other end of your headset will be able to hear all the background noise. So this actually has background noise canceling, which means it blocks the outside noise. There's like 4 microphones on the outside of the boom and then 2 on the inside of the boom. And so it compares the sound of your voice to what's coming in from the outside and then cancels that out via magic, I think. Let me flip back over to our slide deck. And that's the risk of being outside. I just knew they were going to start using the blower next door, but they did that about an hour ago. So I'm hoping they don't do it again. Okay, let's. Oops. Okay. And I picked the wrong slide. So let me go back to the slide that I need. Okay. Let's talk about corporate communication. Are y'all seeing my Microsoft Teams broadcast hub slide?
Yeah, that looks great.
Isn't that cool? Okay, so I could not be more excited about this initiative. So I got to work with a gentleman that works at a corporate headquarters I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He was actually on our Texas Teams meeting back, I think, in March or May. His name is Jace Moreno, and he is in charge of helping our customers worldwide with using Teams as a platform. And so I got to work with Jace and about 8 other modern work CSMs like myself from all over the world. And it was the coolest experience. We would be having calls working on this initiative for y'all. And Timothy Ebeling, who's in Switzerland, would literally be on a train in Switzerland going between customers, and he's on a headset and using a hotspot and using Teams with video on. And Emma is in the UK. And then we had a couple of people who we started using separate meetings who are calling in from Asia Pacific region and from Australia. And it's just amazing how Teams can just bring the whole world together on a call. It was just fascinating. But what we worked on is this whole challenge around corporate communications. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of blast through this deck pretty quickly because this is going to be a program that any of your agencies can sign up for. So let me go ahead and go through here. So what we're talking about is, if your experience is anything like mine, over the past year, it really seems like the volume of our work has increased, and I mean a lot. And the boundary between work and home and work life and home life and on hours and off hours has really gotten blurred. And the volume of communication that I get via email and via Teams has really increased a lot. And I've also, and I noticed, I was actually talking to my wife about this last night because we had date night last night and we were over dinner and we were talking about Microsoft To Do, but we were also talking about just the anxiety of all this messages coming in, and do I respond right then and say, hey, I'll get to this, and how do I follow up and I get to that, and do I respond immediately, or do I wait till the end of the day to read my emails? And so this, I love working with y'all, and I want to be responsive, and so it's I put personal stress on myself, and I literally just can't keep up. I get more messages than I can read, and so this onslaught keeps coming, and I have so many ways that like y'all, I got text messages, I've got Teams messages, I've got email, I got my personal email. It's just so many ways for us to be gotten a hold of. And sometimes I'm just like, I'm just not going to look at an email today. I'm not going to read emails, or I'm not going to read the stuff from corporate communications. And I'm just going to I'm only going to pay attention to my customer emails and my teammates. And so it's really challenging. And so the problem with that is I stop paying attention to the information that is coming that is potentially really important to me, or really important to somebody at corporate, maybe my boss's boss's boss. And it makes it difficult to know what to pay attention to. And so again, just kind of started ignoring a lot of stuff. And so, if this is a problem for y'all, it is probably really a problem for your communications group or your HR group or anybody that is trying to deliver broad organization-wide communications. And it really is broken in many organizations. I have customers who have shared with me that about 3% to 6% of their emails get read that they send out. And these are alerts letting people know about something, some outage that might be occurring, or some transition, like moving from Skype to Teams. We send you 6 emails. It shouldn't have caught you by surprise. But the interesting thing, and the reason we started this whole campaign, is we started talking to some of our customers worldwide, and they're actually doing this really, really well. And so we started talking to them about, what are you doing and what results are you getting? And so they're getting 85% view rates on their organization-wide communications. And so we started talking to them about, how are you doing that and what results are you achieving? So not only are they getting 85% view rates, but they're getting 20% click-through rates. Like if you send an email out and it has, I want you to do this action, I need you to click this thing and go sign up for this, or sign up for this training, or acknowledge this, or sign this paperwork, then 20% click rate is unheard of for email communication. And so we started talking to them about the way they were doing that. And they were doing all of that through one application that is built into Teams. And so let's go into really digging into this one particular scenario, this modern org-wide communications, and how you can enable both your IT groups and anyone that needs to communicate organizationally wide using Teams. And so what we, let's see, sorry, I think I got a little bit of a duplicate slide there. Yeah. And so the way they are achieving this is, instead of using email as their communication mechanism and platform, they're using chat. They're using Teams chat. But if you were going to send out messages, all these messages via chat, that would be potentially very time consuming. And so there is a technology that is available from Microsoft called Company Communicator that gives you the ability to send targeted communications directly to employees inside of Microsoft Teams. And so I'm going to play a little video here, a little fun video to kick off the Teams Broadcast Hub.
Hey, Michael, I don't know if it's supposed to have audio, but there isn't any playing through the system.
It's not playing the audio through the system.
No. I didn't know if it was like one of those audio things or not. It might need to be returned on in the share settings.
Oh yeah, you know what? I bet when I switched to my headset, but it's that's pretty much the end of it, and it's actually not playing super cleanly. I'm not real sure why. I think it's my PC.
Yeah, it's a little bit choppy.
Yeah, it's really choppy on my side too, so it's not just on your side. So let me stop sharing and I'll start sharing again because I do have one other video that I'm going to play, and I'm hoping that it cooperates.
While you're switching, Dad, I just have a question. What does anybody think about the people in your organization who are diehard email people who really don't like the chats, and you have to kind of cajole them and work? And at this point, I'm doing both.
I think that some people, yeah, Shar, it's a good question. I think that there are people who, and typically, and I consider myself in this group. I'm a little older. I'm not on social media. I don't really want to be on social media, and Teams kind of feels like social media potentially to some of our employees, or maybe they just don't like chat. We recommend using both mediums of communication, leveraging Teams and Company Communicator, as well as using email. We find that the view rate, though, of email is really, really low. And so, if you're wanting something to be read, it's very important not to go overboard with the amount of communication that's done. And we'll go into some of the specifics around Company Communicator and best practices. Yeah, I think you still got to supply stuff through email.
Yeah, one of the ways that we kind of helped with this at my institution also, Michael, is that you define the standards of use for email versus Teams chats. So when you say specifically what things you want to see in email and what things you want to say in Teams, it reduces a little bit of the ambiguity, and then you can start to address those from a change management point of view that are opting into that change or not opting into that change. In addition to that, letting them know the value of the teams being all places at the same time. One of the things that helps some of our some of our faculty members who are really against Teams is noticing that you can turn your Teams automation or turn your Teams email notifications on, so they get an email when a Teams message isn't read. So showing people how to turn that on immediately, or maybe in 5 minutes, they get that email from the chat that you said. We found that they were interacting with Teams chat a little bit more when it started in both places. And then finally, the robust searching capabilities that you have through Microsoft Teams is really unmatched. Even though Outlook has some great searching, Teams just beats it pretty well. And when you start to leverage the chats in a way where you can connect the files and click the files cap section, or adding tabs where you can do web connectors and stuff like that, when you show the additional benefits of it, it makes it a little bit easier for people to accept.
Yeah. Another thing I would say also is around teaching people how to set notifications. One of the things that really bugs people about Teams is when all these little pop-ups are happening all the time, and like they're not in a meeting and yet they're getting all of the chat from the meeting, and it's a very active meeting and they've got 17 chats going up the right side of their screen while they're trying to concentrate. That's just it's a setting. And so one of the things that we are going to be promoting is some messaging around how to enable and disable notifications and set that properly. So I'm going to actually skip past this video. It's just kind of fun, and you'll see it again if you attend one of our information sessions on the Teams Broadcast Hub. So Company Communicator is what is called an app template. An app template is an application that was written by Microsoft and is available for free. We keep them in GitHub repositories, which is a code repository, and you are able to download that and implement it into your Office 365. There's no cost for the app itself, and the code belongs to you. So you actually, if you have developers and they want to customize it, you can certainly customize the look and feel and the name. Instead of it saying Company Communicator, you could actually brand that with your organization's name, or with HR communication or IT alerts. And so it is very flexible in the way it can be used. Let's see, let me go back one more screen. There we go. So some of the cool things that Company Communicator allows you to do is it doesn't just send out chats. It actually sends out these what are called adaptive cards. And this right here is an adaptive card. And what it is a it almost looks like a little mini web page that is inside of the Teams chat. And so it has a heading up here at the top. It has an image here, and then it has the body copy that's right here, and then actually has what we call a CTA, or a call to action. A call to action is just what you're wanting them to do, and in this case it says learn more. And if they click on that button, then it will actually take them to a web page or a form to fill out, or right into a training module, whatever the message is that you're sending. And so this can be sent to everyone in the organization, so it can be an all hands alert. It can be sent to a general channel of a specific team. It can be sent to specific individuals, and it can be sent to distribution lists or to security groups. So it has a lot of flexibility. Now, I will say, just on the distribution list, just a quick little caveat, it sends to traditional distribution lists, but dynamic distribution lists it doesn't do yet. But we are going to be working on that capability. So when you think about, okay, well, is anybody else using this? So we have, as of last week, we have 1 million active users using Company Communicator in 1,000 organizations worldwide. And we're on version 4.1 of Company Communicator. So some of you may have taken a look at this in the past and deemed, it's just not ready for us, or it doesn't have the features that we need. So it is significantly enhanced over the last year. And it can be used to send messages. You can send about 200,000 user messages in less than an hour. So this isn't what you use to let people know the building is on fire and they need to get out of the building. This is what you use to send out broad communications that are not like, I need it to hit their inbox right this very second. Other ways that you can do that. There are, as I said, a lot of organizations worldwide that are using Company Communicator. And as we get into the Teams Broadcast Hub, then we'll be sharing with you more examples. One of those big examples is a company called Ernst & Young. And so we went through a lot of details. The first time I saw this slide, I literally cracked up laughing out loud. Sometimes, it's a lot of information. And so I think I got it, but just in case, tell me the whole thing again. I wasn't listening. Here is, and I'm going to send all this to you, so don't feel like you got to write this down or anything. Here are some frequently asked questions that we get around Company Communicator, but we have a whole list of frequently asked questions. And this program is going to be very structured and very guided. And if you're wondering, is there any cost, like back-end costs? Part of this does run in Azure. And so Ernst & Young, who sends about 300 every 2 weeks, one message every week to 300,000 people, they pay about $115 a month in Azure for the cost of the queuing service. So if you have a lot less than 300,000 people in your organization, then your cost is going to be significantly lower. But to be able to deliver that level of communication and achieve that level of reading and that level of click-through, most communication professionals would say $115 a month is pretty inexpensive, but a lot less for your organizations. I know that none of us here have that large of a company. As I said, the Ernst & Young does this. And I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead here because there's going to be a lot more information that is provided in the information sessions that I'm going to get to in just a second. I'm just conscious of the time. So if you are interested in this or learning more about it, then you can go to this URL, this aka.ms/join Teams Broadcast Hub. And I'll put this in the meeting chat in just a minute. The other thing that's going to come along with this, we're not just going to sort of say, okay, there you go, there's Company Communicator, good luck with that. We have also worked with these organizations who are using this around the world to get their best practices and get their one-page templates. And they've been very generous in sharing this with us. And so we have crafted about 20 plus one-page templates that are completely ready for you to use with all of your messaging. They're branded. They're absolutely beautiful. They're built in PowerPoint so that you can change them. You can change the words, the colors, put your logo on them, whatever you want to do. And we're going to give all of that to you as well. And we're going to share best practices guidance around how to leverage this technology, what's been successful for these other organizations. And so it's not just a technology, and it's not just all this content that we're going to give you, but we're also creating a community of other communications specialists and professionals through our customers. And we're going to have an online community to help best practices and what's working. And so this is going to be something that will continue to evolve, and that we will continue to provide more value as we move forward. So the timeline is April 13th and 14th. So that's next week. We're going to have an introduction and overview of the plan. It'll be a lot more detailed than just what I went through. Then April 20th through the 22nd, we're going to have our commencement. So we're going to have an email. We're going to have the Teams community that we're going to start up. And then we're going to have an invitation that goes out to these office hours. And then we're also going to give you access to a SharePoint landing page that has all of the content, all the how-tos, implementation guidance, the actual templates for all the communications, and then all the instructions and prerequisites. And then the office hours, we're not expecting you to figure this out technically, and I'm also not going to be the one that answers your technical questions. We're going to have the actual engineering teams that wrote this application available on these office hours, as well as individuals who are really well versed in government community cloud and in app templates and in security for Office 365 on these office hours to really help to any kind of problems you have, any kind of bugs you're running into, any kind of technical challenges, or just advice that you need. And we're going to help you send out your first message. And then the week, June 8th, 9th timeframe, we're going to have a graduation ceremony and a congratulations to those of you who have been able to leverage this and send out your messages. And then we're going to be talking about next steps and options for ongoing community that's going to be around this initiative. Okay, that was a ton of info. I went really quickly. Did that make sense?
Yes, it made a lot of sense, Michael, since everybody's got their tongues.
I was talking, but I was still on mute. So
okay, feel free to unmute yourself, because there's a chat that says it's very cool. But I was actually pretty excited about it myself. That sounds really cool, and I can think of a ton of organizations that I've interacted with that can really leverage that, and especially that are not 300,000 people large. So you're talking about $115 for 300,000. You cut that in half, you cut that in a fourth. I mean, that's super affordable. You're talking about a message a week. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And especially when you're just talking about getting people to not necessarily leverage email so much, move the cheese. And, if you're getting all your information from Teams and that's where you're sending it out and it's so interactive, then maybe that'll help, sponsor that change.
Exactly. Other thoughts, questions? All right. Then I want to move into a next topic, which is one that, oh, doggone it. I just started from the beginning instead of starting from current slide. That's the second time I've done that today. Here we go. Let's see if I can do a little better this time. Okay, from current slide. Okay, are y'all seeing a slide that says Teams takes flight onboarding?
Si, senor.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. In visiting with a couple of my customers, y'all, I was talking about turnover and talking about what percentage of turnover do you have in your staff. And so most, it was like 10, 20%, some were a little bit higher, some certain program areas were higher. And then when I talked about onboarding and how are you onboarding remote employees, it was a lot of challenge. And there's a lot of cost associated with employee onboarding. And then there is a lot of paperwork that is typically associated with employee onboarding, documents that need to be signed. If you're getting a company cell phone, information that has to be entered for that. If there's training that you need to attend as part of your onboarding, all of that communication that goes on. And so I worked with our partners over at Adobe, and they actually had a competition on creating a demo of a scenario that leverages Adobe Sign, which is a digital signature platform. It's like DocuSign, but Adobe has done a lot of work to completely integrate their Sign platform into Microsoft Teams. And so I built a demo and did some recordings. And this was actually back, y'all remember when I was in the hospital well, not me, but my son was in the hospital and we were there living in the hospital. This took place during that time. And so I actually recorded the videos associated with the demo while we were in the hospital. And there was credit for creativity. So we had a little bit of fun with this. And my wife was my videographer and she did an amazing job. But what I want to do for you is play a quick video of an introduction and a little bit of fun with this that really shows how we could leverage Teams and then digital signatures to automate a lot of the processes around employee onboarding. So another way that we use Teams beyond just the regular meetings that we think of. So let me go forward. There was a really good podcast, and I'm going to send this out. And this is talking about new recruiting strategies for a post-COVID world. And this is a podcast on the Harvard Business Review. And so I'll send the link out to this, but really thought-provoking. So if you are an HR professional, or if you want to forward this to someone in HR in your organization around attracting talent, how do you interview talent? How do you write job descriptions and getting actually involving the team and writing the job descriptions to get more current job descriptions, especially now that we're working remotely? And then how do we go about virtual onboarding? And so I'll send that out, but let's jump right in. So I have a video that I'm going to play, and let me bring that up. Let's see, where is it? Okay. Pull this over here. All right, here we go. So in this demonstration, we're going to be working with are y'all hearing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I stopped it, but
demonstration.
Yes. Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. Fictitious agency, the Texas Department of Goodness, also known as TDOG, and we're going to be taking you through an employee onboarding experience. I'd like to thank the Dell Children's Medical Center where we filmed all of the shots here and did the demo, and thank you to their amazing staff and the care that they give to their patients. That's my hospital bed.
This is my favorite part.
Well, not funny.
Hey, honey, can you feed the baby? It's my welcome package for T-Dog. Hey, honey, look at this awesome welcome kit that I got from the Texas Department of Goodness, T-Dog. So it's this speakerphone, because I'm going to be working remotely now that we have COVID. It's this great headset, and look at this awesome Microsoft Surface Pro computer. This is so cool. So I got this welcome letter with my name on it. It says, we're so excited to have you join our team, and to begin your journey, scan the QR code below with your smartphone. Well, I can do that. Let me start up my camera. Okay. Right. Oh, that's cool. It's a form welcoming to T-Dog in English and Spanish. That's neat. And it says, please enter your cell phone number below to begin your enrollment process. If it matches the number we have on file, you'll receive a text message asking you to authenticate with your government ID. Oh, cool. Okay, so I entered my cell phone. Click submit. All right, it says, thanks, your response was submitted. Oh, I got a text message. Okay, let me see. It says from Adobe Sign, and it says tap the above link to provide your government ID. All right, I can do that. All right, somehow it's going to magically scan my government ID. Oh, that's cool. Okay, it was successful. All right, now it's asking me to take a photo selfie. Almost done. Let's take a selfie so we can match you to your ID. Wow. Okay, that's cool. right, let me take a picture. Okay, all right, perfect. Success. You've submitted your photo successfully. Thanks. You may close the browser window now, and please check your desktop for the next steps. Cool. So I get to use my Windows PC. All right. Like I said, there was points for creativity. But what I want to do now is actually go into the how that happens. So in this, so let me just get past this slide. So in this demonstration, that's not my slide. That is my video. Okay. Okay. So the next thing that happens is when the employee gets their PC and they boot it up and they log in, they've authenticated themselves with literally by taking a picture of their government ID. And so what you can do is you can set up Teams so that it automatically loads upon startup. Probably all of you have it set that way. And you can have the person, the new employee, a member of a team, and then you can have a welcome message waiting for them. This is one of those adaptive cards that I talked about. And it says, we're so glad you're here. Click the links below to review and sign your documentation, get signed up for training, schedule your first meeting with your manager, and get for part of your onboarding. So the first thing I can do is I can click this link right here to learn. And so this will take me to our learning platform, and maybe there's some specific learning that we had to do. And again, Aaron Passons showed how HHS used our learning pathways site, and they pinned it right inside of Teams. And so this is just like that. And so the employee could go to a particular training that they need to do, an onboarding, and a welcome message, maybe from the commissioner or their department head, whatever the case might be. The next thing that they need to do is they need to sign some documents. And so when they click on this message, this is when the interaction with Adobe Sign kicks in. And so in this case, they get a prompt and it says, John Smith, request your signature on your employee agreement, review and sign. And so when we click that, it actually pops up a message here and gives me the ability to digitally sign the document itself. And so I can just sign here. Okay, and then I click apply. And what will happen is that it will put my signature in to this document. But what's also happening is this document is pulling information from, it could be your HR system, it could be CRM, it could be a SharePoint list. But the Sign integration with Office 365 gives you the ability to pull information into a document, to populate it, and then push that information back at the time of signature into documents. So it could update a SharePoint list. It could do, update information in your HR system. And so that can be done via APIs, or it can be done via Power Automate. And so I'll click apply here. And then what's going to happen then is the HR professional is going to get an alert that the employee agreement has been signed. So employee agreement is signed, and participants by Michael Kennedy and John Smith, and then gives them the ability to download that document and put it into their official repository. Now, you could actually have Power Automate move the document into the repository, but that's just one of your options. And so then the next thing that would happen is the employee could click this meet button, and that would go into a scheduling tool such as bookings, and schedule time for that employee to meet with their manager in a time that would work for them and their family and all that kind of stuff when you're onboarding. So let me go in a little bit and show what happened, what was going on behind the scenes. And so you have a candidate. What might be taking place right now inside your organization is you've got somebody in recruiting and you have a candidate, and they send emails back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then when they finally get somebody that they think is going to be good, they'll reach out to HR. And then when HR onboards somebody and an offer is made, they send the document to recruiting, and then they send the document to the candidate. And then maybe they sign it and scan it and send it back, or a picture, or they mail it back and forth. And so they send it back in, they alert HR, and then HR sends emails to IT, to training, to the management team, and then all of those individuals input information into their own systems. And all of this manual process, one, it takes a long time. Two, it's really fraught with the opportunity to make human mistakes and to input something the wrong way. And also, you're oftentimes having to send PII back and forth to everybody via email, which gives an opportunity to have a data loss or a data breach, or for someone to accidentally send something to somebody that they shouldn't have. And so what we did instead is the recruiting person worked with a candidate, and then when they were ready to sign, they actually sent the approval over and did all of this that I showed you in the demo. And then once the acceptance is done, instead of sending emails back and forth, each of the individuals in the series that need to be interacted with will get a Teams message, or they will get an alert sent to them. And then they can actually go to the repository where the real documents are, as opposed to emailing those around. And all of this integration that goes on can be done with what Billy has shown us in the past, which is Power Automate. And so we can integrate your HR system and take all these different steps that used to be manual steps and apply Power Automate to this. And the other thing we can do is ServiceNow and other back-end systems, ticketing systems, have integrated themselves into Teams, and ServiceNow has a particularly good one. And so a service ticket then can be created by Power Automate, and then your maybe your person that does the pick, packing, and shipping of the laptop can get the information. Okay, so Michael Kennedy, he's on the innovation team. Due to COVID-19, he's going to be working remotely. Please pack and ship a welcome kit, a Surface Pro with Windows 10 and Office 365. So they can click here to see the details. When they're done, they can click here to confirm, or if they have a question, they can click and reply, and that'll open up a dialogue right with the HR person that sent this to them. And the result of that is this, instead of a very manual process that takes a lot of time and involves a lot of paperwork, this person, their new employee, Michael Kennedy with T-Dog, gets this a nice welcome kit and a big smile on his face. And so that Adobe authentication, which is this remote authentication, which can be a real challenge, is making sure the person who you're sending the information to is that person. We use an O365 form, and I just did it in English and Spanish, and we just asked for their driver's license number. That submitted that into the Adobe Sign, and then these are the screens that it went through. I just did screen captures where you take a picture of your government ID, and it actually scans the government ID, and you take a selfie and it matches the two pictures. And then if there's success, then it kicks off the whole Adobe Sign process and authenticates them and sets up their user ID so that they can log into their laptop. And so all of those things take place. Let me skip past that. Now, we already talked about the training aspect. And this is, again, this is actually HHS's Let's Learn site, which is their implementation of learning pathways. They did a fantastic job with this, and they pinned it right there to Teams. So all that learning content is right there and is available inside of Teams. So that was all. Again, I tend to go through a lot of content, a lot of information, but I'm very interested in working with y'all around employee onboarding scenarios or other scenarios that are these hybrid work scenarios. And we have these partners with ServiceNow, with Adobe, with if you're doing anything around Esri and information like that, we have the ability to surface up Esri data and ArcGIS right inside of Teams. So there's all these ways that we can leverage Teams to do a lot more than what we traditionally have thought of using Teams for. So y'all have my email address. If you are interested in learning more about how to enable some of these scenarios, like employee onboarding scenarios, I would really love to visit with you and your business groups about how we can help them do that using the software you already own, the licenses you already have. So thank you very much for listening to that part. And I'm happy to answer some questions before we jump into Billy time.
So excited about Billy time today, Michael Kennedy. It's gonna
all
be
right. Let me share in here.
All righty. So to Michael.
Say
it again, Michael.
All right. Does that work?
I keep talking while you're talking, and I'm sorry. What did you say?
Well, I have a little announcement I'd like to make. And I'm getting an echo, but I think, can y'all hear me all right?
Yes.
So So when Billy back in December, when he did his first It's Billy Time, but we didn't call it It's Billy Time back then, I had multiple people reach out to me and just say, that guy is absolutely amazing. I mean, you guys need to hire him. And then I had one of my coworkers who was on, Justin Rohn, who was on the session that day, say, yeah, Kennedy, you need to hire that guy, Billy. He needs to come work for Microsoft. And so I want to introduce It's Billy Time today, but I want to also be the first person to welcome Billy as a Microsoft employee. Billy has joined Microsoft and is coming to work at Microsoft.
Congrats.
I thank you so much, Michael Kennedy. I appreciate
Yay,
you.
Billy.
I really appreciate you, Michael Kennedy, for setting me up for success. It is your exuberance and kindness and collaborative spirit that really demonstrated to me what a great place Microsoft can be to work. And not one person I've interacted with since you has let me down. So I'm really excited to join as a Senior Customer Success Manager for business applications. I'm in retail and consumer packaged goods. So I'm helping our corporations learn how to leverage not just our Office 365 advantage, but our Dynamics and our Power Platform, which is extremely powerful and absolutely revolutionizing the way that we do business. And I'm super excited to join the team and empower the world to do more. So it's going to be great. Thank you for all the really nice chats.
So let's turn it over to Billy for
let's get started.
It's Billy Time.
Let's get started.
We are so excited for you, Billy.
Thank you so much. Don't worry, I'm not leaving y'all in the dust. I'm still gonna come and get on y'all's nerves on a regular basis. Yeah, you don't leave home, right? That's the catch. You can leave, but you're always gotta come back. So I plan to be as involved as I can, or as involved as Michael will let me be. I'm sure
Absolutely.
there. So what I wanted to do today is really focus a little bit on Microsoft Bookings. And what I love about Microsoft Bookings is it is a really great application that was designed by Microsoft. I believe that it was kind of designed originally as a way to use to make small businesses more effective. So one of the examples I saw when I was learning about bookings and learning how to use it was that of a hair salon. And it was that, you've got this person who has an admin, or they're taking all of their appointments and they're getting calls and they're writing it down, and then maybe sending confirmations via email, or they're keeping this book, and if somebody, messes up and can't come, then they call them back. And, it's a lot of work, a lot of manual work, and Microsoft does a really great job of getting rid of some of the manual. And so Bookings is designed as a scheduling or an appointment or service booking application that allows you to set up services that customers or coworkers, in some cases, depending on how your customer base looks. A lot of us are internal customers, which means that all of our internal customer providers, which means all of our customers are also internal. And so however you need to reach to your customer, however you need to reserve that time, Bookings is really smart and can do that for you. Bookings is a function of Outlook. And so what it does is it allows you to set up the services, set up those who can provide the services, and then it lets you use its internal AI and ML to decide when somebody selects a service they want to take a part of. It will read the calendars, read the available providers for that service, and then provide the customer with dates and times based on your programming. And that's like, saying when you're open, when you're closed, how often these things can happen, and allow them to then pick the right time and date for that service. And whatever that service may be is what it can be used for. So I'm going to open it in just one moment in two places. I'm going to open it in the web app. I'm going to also open it in the Teams application and show you some really great benefits of it. The first thing I want you to know is you can download it right from your Teams application, just clicking the more options and typing in Bookings. And you can click it there and open the application. You can also pin it here as well. My favorite place to use it is the actual Bookings application. I get there from my Office landing page, which is really valuable. So you can go here and click Bookings, or go to all applications and then go there to click Bookings. When you get to Bookings, you'll land here. And there's some features I want to show you, but I want to start, for those of you who have never seen a Bookings page, so show you what the customer sees first. Let's talk about what the customer sees. So how do I How do I use bookings? I use bookings as an opportunity to set up time with me. And I know what you're thinking. I have a calendar, right? So I can just use my calendar. I can send people my calendar availability. They can use it. Well, I wanted to figure out a way where I could not only guarantee people in my organization as I functioned as an internal consultant, I wanted to guarantee them the ability to get my time within a certain range of time that I had available. And I wanted them to be able to go in, get their time, get somebody to set it up, the appointment for me, send us a meeting invitation, and then capture all this information that I need to get from them. And bookings did that for me. So let's look at what it looks like if you're my customer using my bookings page. So you say you want to spend some time with Billy. I need an hour with Billy for training. Let's say that's the case. I want you to come train our team. I worked at UT Southwestern. I worked there until April 20th. But I worked at UT Southwestern. Let's say somebody wanted to do some training with me for an hour. They would go to my bookings page here. This is what will pop up. They would click 1 hour of 1 hour with Billy, and they pick their date. I needed to be on Wednesday the 14th. And then automatically, whatever day I pick, and in this particular case, I'll say Billy, whatever date I pick, there are the times that I'm available. Now you'll notice 9 and 10 o'clock are not available because I'm not available. Bookings, check out the icon, Outlook icon. Bookings is real time and looking at my calendar to see when I'm available. So I've also told bookings when they can book and also to look at my calendar to make sure that I don't get double booked. And that's exactly what bookings is doing now. So let's say I want to meet at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Great. April 14th at 1 o'clock with Billy. There are questions that bookings is going to automatically ask, name, email, address, and phone number. But then there's also questions that I have told bookings to ask so I can have an idea about what this meeting's about. So here below, it allows you to do 2 types of questions. The first is a text input. So what's my department name? Elevate. All right. But then it also asks you what type of time would you like? What kind of time you like? The second type of question you can ask is a drop down. So I can put in different options for them to pick from. So here are the most common reasons that somebody would book time with me at UT Southwestern. So let's say training. And then I also want a synopsis so I can prepare for the training. And so then they would go here and say, you know, what is the reason? And they would click book. Once they click book, it'll give them a confirmation page here. It automatically sends them a confirmation email to let them know that it's booked, gives them to reschedule or cancel their appointment in that email should they need to. It sends me an email letting me know that somebody booked, and it sets up an online Teams meeting for both of us, all with 1 click. Now, these are things that I would have to manage myself, or if I had administrative help, they'd have to manage themselves. And so this is how we use it. Some of the ways that we use it at UT Southwestern, as we're doing interviews, we're scheduling interviews externally or recruiting events, letting people set up for those times. We have faculty members that very often need to, or you could say executives, depending on what organization you work in, that are doing performance reviews. So you set up the bookings meeting so you can schedule your own performance review. You can limit the calendar scheduling as you see fit. So a ton of different options you can use. And so I wanted to make sure we saw what it looked like first before we go and talk about what it does on the back end. Do we have any questions about what we're seeing here? I want to stop and pause. I know y'all are very often quiet and you like to type in messages, so I'm going to switch back. I don't like you to have to see yourself from my view, but I'd love to know if there are any questions, comments, or concerns about what we're looking at. Any thoughts?
Not yet, Billy, in the queue here.
Okay, cool. All right, so as you can see, very easy, very seamless, very simple, nothing too complex from a customer point of view. Let's talk about what happens on the back end. So as soon as I come home to my bookings page, you'll notice that it's giving me my activity. I can see how many bookings have been made in the last rolling 30 days and also how many customers have booked. If your services offer or have a revenue dollar, you can use this as well. Very often in our institution, the internal services do not cost anything, but we like to track how much money we are worth or how much money we're saving or how much money we're saving the institution. And so in some cases, we put a dollar amount with those services so that at the end of the 30 days, we can see that we would have billed for this amount of dollars and be able to prove how much money we're saving the organization. So there's a ton of ways you can do that. You can export the data into a TSV file, which you can open in Notebook. And you can go as far back as you want for 120 days of recent data. So that's really, really valuable. So you can get an Excel kind of looking list or table of all of your customers and all of the answers and their time and the date of their meeting. So really great data there as well. So another thing that we love about the bookings page is that you can have staff members. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but as you add staff members, you'll be able to see an overview of all of the services that are booked from this booking page. So I can at a glance see all of the appointments that have been added here, which can be really valuable. I can go ahead and click in and I can reschedule any of the staff members that are there and give my service to them, or I can make a service from scratch. Maybe you're wanting to ease in, or you don't want your customers to really interact. I can go ahead and set my bookings, set a bookings appointment in here, set what it is, and I can input the information for the customer. Let's say I work over the phone and somebody's calling the booking something, and I can book it so I can manage it just on the back end. That's always an option you have as well, and still send the customer an email confirmation, still send the meeting invitation, etc. So not only can I use it to manage, let my customers manage and schedule, and then let it automate the information to me, but I can also use it as a way to track the information as I'm setting those appointments. Really, really valuable there. The next thing is my favorite. You have complete and total access over your services and over your page. I can change my color scheme. I can set a custom color scheme with my hex numbers, so I can keep it branded. I can have a logo that I add, which I don't have a logo. But if you have a team or a organizational logo, you can add that there. One of the best things that we that really unlocked usage is this button right here. See where it says require a Microsoft 365 or Office 365 account for my organization to book? What this means is if this is checked, only those who are in my organization can do that. They'll use their email address to log in. But when this is unchecked, that means internal and external people can utilize it. So I've used time with Billy, actually, ironically, to book time with Michael Kennedy. So when he's like, hey, Billy, do you have some time? You know what, Michael? I have any time that you have available. So let me send you my bookings link. He clicks that and he picks the time that's best for him. And when he does that, it's automatically going to block off my schedule and set up a meeting for us. And then if he wants to invite additional people, he can just forward that meeting invitation to them, and voila, you have a ton of people that are available to be there in that meeting. So really, really love that. You can put specific data usage consents or essentially any usage terms that you want to display in the confirmation email. You can type those in here and do those manually. The scheduling policy. So when we went to my page, let me open it again. You'll see that when I choose a time, the times are available in 30-minute increments. So how often somebody's able to schedule and how often an appointment shows, I can control all of those things here. So if I want it every 15 minutes or every hour, I can do those things. And then in addition to that, I can choose how soon you can book and how far in advance you can book. So I have no minimum lead time. That means if you are at 4 o'clock and I have an appointment at 5 available, you can take that 5 o'clock appointment, no problem. But maybe you're like, I need at least a day. 24 hours. Now, if they go in today, they won't see an appointment unless it's 24 hours in advance. And that still follows your overarching hours of availability there. In addition to that, I can decide how far in advance you can set an appointment. And so since I do a lot of events, or I did a lot of events, hosting and setting up, then I would want to give you at least a year so you can get those things scheduled. So that's another benefit as well. Making sure that they see it in their own time zone is a key, or my time zone is a key. The email notifications. Do I want to notify the business via email, the people who are taking the appointment? There's a ton of different things. You saw that in this particular instance, let's say you have multiple staff members that can help someone. You can pick from those staff members here, but maybe you don't want them to pick. Maybe you want bookings to decide automatically who's available. I can remove that option. And when I save it and publish it and refresh this page, now there is no option. What I have the ability to do is go ahead and click the date and the time, and it'll automatically schedule for me who's available. So that way you can kind of hide that so that you don't have people who pick a specific thing. Really, really valuable. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is your availability. So how do I decide who's available? You can do that by going here and saying bookable when staff is free. What this will do is If there's an appointment available, if there's a staff member available. If there's an availability on their calendar, boom, they can be booked. But you can also change that as well. So I can say, I can turn the bookings page off by making it not bookable, or I can choose custom hours. So in some cases, when we're doing educational interviews or interviews at large, I can actually take this and set a date range and say, I only want this bookings page to be open from April 8th to April 15th during these days and these times. So let's say I'm doing interviews only on Tuesday through Thursday from 8 to 10. 8 to 12, let's do that because it's easy. I can go through and say that and say those particular dates, and I can change a different date. So maybe on Wednesdays we do it 1 to 5. I have the ability to set those things. So now it's doing compound learning. Bookings is gonna A, learn from what staff members are available, B, learn from what dates I have available here, and then C, the actual staff members' calendar availability as well. So I can make it as complex or as simple as I like. And I'm hoping what you're doing right now in your mind is you're envisioning how you can utilize this. I'm going to give you a really big opportunity for use in just one moment with our hybrid workspace, but I really want you to just kind of let your mind roam a little bit. What kind of appointments or how often do you have to get time with someone that could be valuable? How often do you have a service grouping that, this will be available if it'll be great if they can set those appointments on their own and it doesn't require a person to work through it with them and go back and forward and you have 4 people asking for your time. And so I sent all 4 people these slots and then the first person took a slot. Now these other 3 people want to pick it too and I have to take it off and resend it. There's just a lot going on there that this can be really simple. So those are some of the availabilities that you have there as well. Complete and total control. And I can set multiple ranges. So if I have 8 to the 15th, then I can change this one and say, maybe the 26th through the 30th. I can do that as big or as small as I like. And I can also delete them when I want to go back to normal. I mean, you have complete and total customer availability. And it's one of the things that makes it such a powerful tool. I'm going to stop here and see if there's any questions from this point. Anybody?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a sorry, there's a lot of echo. I can type it out.
I'm not hearing an echo, so if you want to go
Okay,
ahead.
good. It's just me. If you're sharing between domains, like, I don't know, if I wanted to send this to Michael Kennedy, do I need to open up his, open up tenant, external sharing kind of stuff?
No, ma'am. And that's one of the things that I love about this is that as long as your bookings page is available, you have the ability to go ahead and uncheck that. This is the access control. So again, I didn't have to, it wasn't a tenant question because this is one of the tools from Office 365 that's really designed for businesses. Like this is a business advantage that you're really leveraging internally. And the idea is that if my business is internal to a tenant or it's nationwide, I should be able to use this tool. So I've actually given this to Michael Kennedy. Ironically, when I was doing some of my informationals for Microsoft, I actually used this to schedule some of those times so they could go into the bookings page and find what was best for them. And that, so I say that to say you have an opportunity for sure to leverage this in many different ways. As you can see, you can also share it on socials or via email. I also use a link shortener. So our organization allows us to use Bitly. So I actually took my bookings page and made a Bitly link. So I also get click analytics. I can compare that to people who actually schedule, etc. Does that answer your question?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. All right, so let's talk about some more. I only have a few minutes left. Let's talk about some more advantages of how to set a bookings page up and the benefits thereof. Customers. Every time I have a customer, it tracks those customers here, whether they're internal or external, which is really valuable. In addition to that, I can also add staff members. Let me delete this one so we can do it from scratch. So as I decide to add staff members, I can click add staff. And then I can go in, and what I love is it's connected to my address book. Again, I will direct you to the fact that this is an Outlook function. I have the ability to go in and type in somebody's name, and then it's going to find all those people whose names are in my organization. So really valuable. I can also just manually enter a person who isn't there by using their email or their phone number. And so in all my staff list as well, I'm going to discard this and go into me as a staff member so you can see some of the benefits. So I have overarchingly have the bookings page looking at availability of the staff member, right? But in addition to that, I can say availability here. So there was an instance at our institution where we had a little bit of a technical issue that required manual assistance. And so to fix that technical issue, people had to go and talk to a specific tech. I had to go talk to a tech. I had to set up a time. I think I had to spend 10 minutes with them to remote into their computer and solve it. And we had to do that times with the different people who were affected. Why do I say that? I say that to say, in this particular instance, when we were using that, those techs put a block on their calendar so they wouldn't get any other meetings, which means they were blocked from 8 to 12 or 1 to 5 as they were rotating through this. So in the particular instance of bookings looking at your calendar, if there's a block there, it's not going to schedule you, right? And so that could be dangerous because it's looking for open spaces. So what we did is instead of saying events on the office calendar affect availability, we turned that off. And then we set availability dates for each of those staff members. So if they were 8 to 5 on Monday, Tuesday, and then they didn't have to do any of those appointments on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we were able to take them out. So now bookings is not going to look at their Outlook calendar. It's going to look at what the time is programmed here. So you have two different types of ways to do availability for your staff members. In addition to that, you have the ability to change their initials. So all of our staff members, it automatically use your initials for your name and it assigns you a color. What we did in those cases was we assigned initials for various organizations. So if you were hospital, there was HSP, and if you were educational, there was EDU, and if you were business affairs, you were BA. And then we also used the different colors to represent that as well. So when I looked at the calendar earlier, you saw everything was pink. That's because Billy, as a staff member, his color was pink. And so when we changed the colors to reflect those different organizations, I was able to at a glance see who and what have been scheduled based on those initials in that color. So it's another level of complexity that you have there. Staff members come in 3 different levels. The first level is administrator, and that's the person who can edit all settings, remove staff, create and edit, delete bookings, is all access. The next level is a viewer. That's somebody who has the ability to come in and view things that you see here, but they can't make any changes. And then finally is a guest. And a guest can be kind of like deceptive because you think guest means external to my organization. That's not really what it means. A guest is a person who can be a staff member and they can get things booked, but they don't have access to the back of the house, if you will, that you're seeing here. They're just getting the appointments and getting them scheduled. They're managing it off of their calendar. And you can also control email notifications. So I want to stop here for staff and see if there are any additional questions before I show you the services. So there's nothing like a manager role between a viewer and an admin. Really, we use viewers as managers because you have the access to see the calendar, you have the access to see the staff members, you have the access to see the services without editing it, right? And then you have your administrators that can change anything. So I would say guest is really like staff, viewer is like manager or supervisor level, and then you would say administrators are professional. Let's see, what other questions do we have? You have to make sure you block out your lunch or your customers will always be available scheduled during the lunch hour. Yes, so blocking your calendar becomes a really serious necessity, or changing your availability here. So going in and saying I'm available 8 to 12, so you can split the time, right? I know it's not self-evident sometimes, but I can go in here and say I'm available 8 to 12 and then add a plus sign and say I'm available 1 to 5. I mean, it really gets as nitty gritty as you want. And most of the time, once you set it up once, you can kind of set it and forget it in most cases and not have to worry once you got it set up how you want it to run. No, I meant to discard, not delete. Let's go ahead and discard that. So that's staff. Now let's talk about the magic. Where does the magic happen? The magic happens in services. The services are what you want to offer. Our benefits team uses this. Our employee relations team uses this. Some of our procurement team uses this to set up different services. So one of the things that our company teams uses is payroll. They set up services for you to walk through a training or walk through an issue. So if I wanted to do a payroll review I can do that service. I can name my service whatever I want. And then in addition to that, I can set my locations here. I can use a real location on campus. I can use a Office 365 location on campus, or if I slide this on, automatically it's an online meeting and it'll send a Teams meeting in. This is my favorite thing to use. How long is your service? If you're doing a payroll review or payroll consultation, how long does that service last? Let's say it takes an hour. Let's say it takes 30 minutes. You can set the default duration. You can also set buffer time. So let's say after you finish this payroll consultation, you have a little paperwork you need to do. You need to put all the stuff in the system, or you need to add your notes. I can say after that appointment, give me a 15-minute buffer. And so booking starts to calculate this when people start to schedule and moves the availabilities of your appointments accordingly. I can also choose to let the customer manage their appointment if they want to move it around or cancel it, or I can turn that off if this is like an administrative function. So if you're using this in employee relations, I don't need you to be able to reschedule. You need to show up when I say you need to show up. So there's different options. From a training point of view, for all of our trainers out there, for all of our team members out there, for all of our people who are rolling out new ways of doing things in your organization, and you want to be able to show people in those short terms, I can choose how many attendees can attend a service. So let's change our scenario. This is a training on a new system. Okay, great. And so it's a training on a new system, and I can tolerate maybe 20 people on each of those trainings. Well, now, if there's a 9 o'clock training available, and let's say the training is 4 hours, and I need some kind of lunch and bio break after that, and I need 10 minutes before the training to kind of really set that up. Well, now I have 20 people. So if you see a training option on that service for 9 o'clock, before, if somebody closed at 9 o'clock and then you went to go push it, it wouldn't be there. There'd be no 9 o'clock. But now, Bookings is going to count how many people click 9 o'clock. And once it gets to 20, then it will erase the availability for that particular service and timing. I can add notes. I can add custom fields. This is my favorite part. So if you have specific questions you want to ask, you can go in and set those questions. You just add a question and choose, is it a text question or a drop-down question? And then you may say, for this training, I want to know which system do you currently use? Good thing Microsoft didn't make me do a typing assessment. Otherwise, I might not be going. All right, so let's say Taleo, let's say PeopleSoft, let's say, you can list all those lists. And so as you saw earlier when I did the customer demonstration, that'll offer that. I can also choose if the question is required or not required. So once I add that question, I can go through and say, I definitely need the employee number. And as you add questions to the bookings, it lets you use them on multiple services. Please give a synopsis, and I want to make those questions required, which will prevent them from submitting without answering your question. That's really great when we were doing the service offerings. People were coming with us with those service issues. We would say, you have to submit your ServiceNow ticket number. And if you didn't do it, you couldn't submit your bookings, which stopped people from being able to go in and say, oh, I'm just going to book this anyways and not book a ticket. No, I want to see your ticket number. And the last thing I'll show you is your reminders and confirmations. I can add custom email confirmations, verbiage to the confirmation email that goes out. And then also I can set up reminders for the customer and for the staff member who's taking the service. So I can add a reminder and choose how far out I want that reminder. Maybe I want to remind them a day before, but I don't want to remind the customer. I want to remind the staff member and tell them, make sure you have X amount of documents, all of these things set up so you can be ready for so-and-so's service. So I have it set up for myself when I do that to remind me to look at it again and make sure I have all of my appointments done, because the day can get away from us. You can also remind the customer as well and customize that, even via text message, which is really valuable as well. I can remove and add the service as I see fit. And then let's talk about another level of scheduling. So I have scheduling from the actual bookings page. Then I have scheduling from the staff page. Remember, I can further do scheduling there. And then I can adjust the scheduling options for this particular service. So some services need to be 30-minute increments and some need to be an hour. Maybe this service is available for 14 days, but this service is available for 12 days. We had one of our departments set up a department bookings page, and every service that they do yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly, they set them up to cycle at one point. They went and set up, okay, we do this every April, we do this every August. So they set up the service, set the availability up for the month of April, the month of August, and then they set it and they forget it. And so bookings automatically pops that service up when it's available to be scheduled, and automatically removes it when it needs time to be removed. So that's another benefit of using this, because you're really benefiting from that artificial intelligence on that back end. So one of the things that I was discussing with Michael Kennedy about is remote work. And as some of our areas are removing, every single person has a seat and going more to landing pages and hoteling and maybe office rentals, etc., this can also be a benefit for you as well by setting up a service for that particular space. So if I know I have a landing space number 1, I can go in and put that here. I can put the location of that. I can also put a description of that landing space as it is. I mean, maybe with a link to the page that describes it in depth, so that when I go and book it, I can press the I and see the information about that description. I can go in and set how long that is. So you're going to rent it for 8 hours, or you're going to rent it for 4 hours, or you're going to rent it for 2 hours. I can put that buffer period there so that we have time to sanitize and clean it. I can allow that customer to manage it so that if they need to give it up, somebody else can get it scheduled immediately. Is this a landing space that has multiple seats in it, or just one? Maybe it's a 3 office space, so I can have 3 people have this landing space for 8 hours. If I want to talk about the price that I'm saving and maybe keep an order on the back end, I can do that, put that time in there as well. And then also get those custom fields. One of the ways that you can leverage this is to make a ad hoc attestation. So I can go to my questions and do a drop down and say, I attest to, and start to list all of the things that I expect you to do in the space and all of the things that I need you to know. And then you can say, yes, I will adhere to those rules, or no. Or if you want to do a specific text one to make sure you read it, you could do a text question, do the same thing, and then have them type in their username to say that they've done it, depending on your particular policies and procedures for your area. So that's one of the things we really love. That's one way. And if you happen to have conference rooms that have a email address or Outlook 365 Exchange connection to them, you can go in, like we do at our organization, you can go in and add staff and add those organizational conference rooms. So for instance, I think we have BP, there we go. So BP 4124 is one of our conference rooms. So now that email address, remember email addresses, it reads the calendar to see if there's anything on it. So now you can manage that space by what's already there on the availability and the timing, and be able to set those services there as well. So you have a couple of options when thinking about how you can use this for remote work and beyond. So that concludes my very over time presentation. So I'll stop here to see if there are any questions, comments, or concerns. Y'all are real quiet today, and it's a little startling.
I'll talk.
Okay.
At Texas Parks and Wildlife, we're actually looking at shared workspace,
Mm-hmm.
and at least I'm in state parks, and we're looking at ways of people being able to reserve that shared workspace. And I was actually immediately thought a SharePoint calendar, but bookings makes a lot more sense for that scenario. So I was just curious if any of the other agencies are looking at options of reserving that shared workspace in their agencies.
Yeah, I think a SharePoint calendar looks great. This would look great. Also, maybe a channel calendar for some Teams pages, so you can post pictures, and then you can also have conversations about the space. If you want a little bit more of a community feel, a channel calendar in Teams is also a nice option as well. So you have a ton of different things you can do. I mean, I actually heard at one point, and I hesitate to say this for 2 reasons. I don't know if you have access to it, and I don't know if we haven't quite fleshed it out, but there were people talking about using shifts to do that as well. So kind of shifting that in there, and that's an application in Teams, how they're going to leverage it. So just some things to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, folks.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, David.
Hey, David.
Hi. Hey, Michael. Hey, Belly. Congratulations to
Thank you.
move into the Microsoft space. You did a great job today. So awesome. It's funny because I just taught a booking class here at the City of Austin, which went well. And then afterwards, I was thinking, actually, I was talking to Mike, and I was going to actually send this to you. I'm going to put it in the chat. I did just exactly what you said, Billy, today was Michael and I we usually do this rigmarole where it's like, hey, let's have a follow-up meeting. And then he says, when are you available? I said, I don't know, when are you available? So I created a bookings page for myself that y'all can click on if you want to see. And it's exactly what Billy did. So I was going to send this to Michael. So Michael, you can use that bookings link to schedule our next meeting whenever it's convenient to you. So,
awesome, David.
There you go.
Yeah. And there's something that I neglected to mention, but all of you people who stayed late will get to hear it. And that is Bookings creates an email address for that bookings page and a profile as well. And so it allows you to, so when I go to the Teams meeting, for instance, there is in some cases a time with Billy team person in there that's how it's setting up those meetings. And it also comes from time with Billy on Microsoft whatever email address there is there, and I'm copied on that as well. So that's a really great benefit to it as well. It gives it a nice professional look, and especially from an administrative point of view. For those of you who are administrating on the back end, it allows you to keep track of those things as well, see them in the address book, etc. One more thing that I did not mention, but I will show you that really quickly, and I do want to put emphasis on really quickly. It is the bookings application in your Teams page. So what I find is I usually go to this bookings page more than anything else, because now I can go in and manage my bookings and review my bookings here, but also see my additional calendars of all my staff members. Now, why is that valuable? Because of what you may have noticed is that I can't necessarily see multiple calendars in my Teams calendar. But once I use the bookings application, it's going to use bookings to show me all of my staff members and their availability there. So now I can go in and see that conference room or whoever other staff members are there and see what they have on their plate. In addition to that, I can drop down here and switch to existing booking calendars. So I can open existing booking calendars in my organization and look at all of them at the same time. So I have the ability to go through and look at those different reservation spaces. And finally, it also puts it on my calendar. So I can go to my calendar, and what do you notice there? There's bookings right there. And so I have the ability to manage it from here too and look at those calendars. It's just a really great benefit to use it in Microsoft Teams. It's one of my favorite things to do, especially when you're talking about your teams. You can pin the actual bookings link in the Teams on the top of the Teams page for easy access for your entire team or your organization or your group or your department. The possibilities are truly endless.
Hey, Billy, Bradley Shook had a question. How do you change the name of the bookings page? You said, when I first set mine up, I used test and need to change it now.
So all of your organization, all of your bookings controls, adding, editing, or not adding, anybody can add, but editing and deleting are controlled by your administrators. So that's a little bit of the downside when you're using your bookings page. If I had to say there was a con, what I have found to be one of the cons is that, like, I made a test when I wanted to delete it. Well, I couldn't. I had to get in contact with those who were administering my Teams tenant to be able to go in and delete it for me or make those edits because of the fact that it has an email address associated with it, etc. So you would be better off canceling that, getting them to cancel that bookings and making another one. Now, I also have created 3 different bookings pages that I can go in and bounce through by going into the page. Let me show you that. Right there at the top left-hand corner of the screen of bookings, I have a little down caret. I think you can see my screen now. This little down caret here, and I can create a new bookings from scratch, or I can open another bookings by typing the name of that bookings page and then jump to that bookings page to administer, etc. So you don't have to just make one. You can make as many as you want, and you can control them. But when it comes to changing and deleting, you need to reach out to those who are administering your tenant.
Nice, very nice.
Thank you, Michael Kennedy, for letting me come to these.
Yeah, well, this is super fun.
A whole job at Microsoft. What? You thanking me? I should be thanking you, sir, and all of you lovely people who started chatting Michael Kennedy up as soon as I did like a 5-minute demo. And he's like, what did you do? Like, I wasn't there, but what did you do? And whatever you did, can you come do it in 2021? Like, it's awesome. So I really, really appreciate each of you.
I think it was a Game of Thrones backdrop that you had.
Absolutely. What do you have? You have the sword, the sword throne, right?
The throne, yeah. I was like, you gotta hire
Yeah.
this guy. What?
Yeah.
Of course.
The Iron Throne. I can tell those of you who don't watch Game of Thrones and you need to rectify that. Do that for yourself. Just a really great show.
Well, thank you to everybody who has stayed so long. As I said, I could not be more excited to have Billy joining Microsoft. And but he has assured me he will still participate in our Texas Teams Communities calls, even though he's going to be with the retail commercial peeps. But thank you everybody for joining. Sorry for running so long today. There's just so much to cover, and we appreciate all of y'all and getting to work with you. So have a wonderful afternoon, great weekend, and please, I put the link to go to the information sessions for the Teams Broadcast Hub. I would really love to see a lot of our SLG customers using Company Communicator to more effectively communicate. And then I'd also really love to follow up with you about those scenarios like those employee onboarding. And there's just so many interesting things that we can do with Teams now that we have the roads laid in. But where we're going, we don't need roads. So awesome. Signing off. Y'all have a fantastic evening.
One question before you go. Where do we get those shirts?
I got it off Amazon.
Oh, is that where you got it?
Uh-huh.
But not something that you came up with.
No, this is from the movie from I'm trying to stand up Back to the Future. And I looked up Back to the Future shirts in Amazon. I searched for that. And I narrowed it down and I typed in this quote and I found there's 30 shirts with this quote on.
I thought that was something you came up with.
No, yeah, sometimes they have the DeLorean on the shirt like this. It doesn't actually stick out of the shirt like this metal one does, but it's actually
Somebody had one parked in the back of our
Yes, I did have the DeLorean with me at all times, so in case I needed a prop. I will be. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here.